We're going to be reading from Mark 6:45 to 56. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened. When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. As soon as they got out of the boat, people recognized Jesus. They ran throughout that whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages, towns, or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed. This is one of my maybe most contentious parts of Christianity and faith and relationship with God, just that last part. They begged him to let him touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed. I've had conversations with pastors, and they go, "Oh, well, Jesus didn't heal everyone. There's occasions where he just healed some people. He only healed certain people. All this kind of thing." Like, people have made excuses for it, and I don't necessarily believe that Jesus healed everyone that was around all the time. I think there's kind of stories where that wasn't necessarily the case. But in this case, it says they begged him to let him touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed. And this has, and maybe always will be, my contention with God. I don't understand it, because I've prayed for people on lots of occasions and not seen them get healed. If you ask me to have faith for $1 million, I'll do it. I've seen that happen. I've seen God come and provide 2.5 million rand when we need it. But when it's faith for healing, I'm like, okay, cool, you're going to have to trust and rely on someone else, because my faith is not big there. I've prayed for people. I've seen God not heal them. I've seen people get better on occasion, but I just don't have the faith. And it's not something that makes me lose faith in God. It's a thing that I don't understand. But I can hold it in tensions, like, God, I don't understand. God, we have angry words on this sometimes. It's like, God, please just heal, especially when it's my wife. She used to struggle from a lot of headaches or have bad dreams at night or whatever, and those he took away. We prayed for those, and those did get taken away. But the headaches, like, can't remember a time when I prayed for her and she got completely healed. Sometimes it gets a little better, sometimes it just doesn't get better. It's like, God, I don't understand it. And you know what? It's okay to not understand God. He's God. Jesus, on these occasions, healed people. I've got friends who've prayed for people. They've seen blind people get better. They've seen lame people walk. One of those friends is now in hospital, about to have a big operation. He's seen amazing things happen, and yet God's not healing him in the same way. It's a tension. Does that mean God doesn't exist? No, it just means I don't understand this particular aspect of God, and I'll continue to rage and debate over it. But it's not going to throw my faith completely. And you've got this story where we've watched the miracle of the 5,000 people getting fed. The disciples leave and go across the river, and it says, after leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. It's one of the regular disciplines that Jesus put in place. Prayer was important to him. He'd been interrupted. He'd left space for the interruption, but now it was time for that to be over, so he dismissed the crowds. It's not like they finished wanting to be with him. There's a time where he goes, no, now it's time for me to go pray. And he goes and he hangs out with God. And often the time when Jesus went and had long sessions of prayer preceded a huge miracle, or a time of an outpouring of God's power. Maybe that's a relevant thing. So after this particular time of prayer, Jesus just goes and takes a stroll on the local lake. And the disciples see him and they're terrified. And eventually they welcome into the boat. They realize it's him. The storm calms down. And it says their hearts were hardened because they didn't understand the loaves. And that's an ongoing story in the Bible, an ongoing story with the disciples. And I've said on many occasions that God must just part an ocean once for me, like he did for the Israelites. Never doubt again. But you know, it's not going to be the case. The disciples had just seen one kid's lunch get transformed into enough food to feed 5,000 people or 15,000 people, plus leftovers. And in a couple of hours, they're doubting again. Like, oh, is God big enough to save us? Like, Jesus, what's happening? It's like they didn't understand. And God kept on kind of blanketing their hearts. And I think they were only meant to really understand once Jesus had left, but he kept kind of showing them glimpses and little moments of that. And the response of the people in the region, they ran throughout that whole region, carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, they placed their sick in the marketplaces and everyone was healed. I think it's important for us as we hear God working, as we see God working somewhere locally. Often if it's happening and another church is doing it, we're like, oh, no, it's that church. Oh, we can't respond to that. But I think sometimes we need to get excited. If God is working in that area, we need to go and check it out. We need to go and see if we can learn from the people that God is using. See if we can get involved. See if we can put our hand on the thing that God is already doing. Look at the response of the people when they saw God in action. They got excited. It's like they dragged their sick friends on mats. Maybe we've gone to a bunch of doctors. Maybe we've prayed to God ourselves. We haven't seen him heal, but we've heard stories of God healing in this way. Let's go check it out. Let's show our faith. And the same call is on us. Where has God been working recently? Is it in the next town? Why not take a drive there? Why not go check it out? Why not chat to the pastor that God's using? Why not chat to the faith healer, whoever it is? Like, get an understanding. Go with open hearts. Go with humility. And maybe we can learn new ways for God to work in and through us. It's something to think about, something to chase after. But remember that principle of taking time out, sending the cards away, sending the busyness and the business away, and just slowing things down and connecting with God again, being one with God, building up your personal relationship with God, building up your strength and your faith again, so that you can go out and continue the work of the kingdom.